2/3 of Canadians are demanding proof before accepting Kamloops' unmarked graves claim. 4 years after the local band announced the discovery of what was initially called 215 unmarked graves at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School, a strong majority of Canadians still want physical proof before accepting the claim.
A First Nation says the remains of more than 200 children have been located, buried on the site of a former residential school, in fact, the largest residential school in the entire national network from the time.
Don't take my word for it, though. A new Angus Reid Institute poll shows 63% of Canadians and 56% of Indigenous respondents believe exhumation is necessary to confirm that children's remains are buried at the site. To date, no human remains have been exhumed or confirmed, despite $12.1 million in federal funding for the investigation and a successive series of lies from the CBC.
True. Mm-hmm. Yes, there have been burnings of Christian Catholic churches. Yes, there have been remains of Indigenous children found in various places around the country, which she misrepresented.
Awareness of the Kamloops announcement is nearly universal. 77% of Canadians have heard of it, with BC residents at 88%, but majorities across nearly every region say further verification is needed, with the sharpest skepticism in provinces with the largest Indigenous populations. Saskatchewan and Manitoba has 71%, the highest in the country. In fact, Saskatchewan and Manitoba were the most skeptical, the two provinces with the largest Indigenous population. 71% of respondents said further verification of residential school claims is needed. That's the highest in the country. Alberta, it was 66%, above the national average. In British Columbia, it was 60%. Ontario, 62%. Quebec, 58%, the lowest, though still a majority. Atlantic Canada, 61%, said there should be further verification of claims at Indigenous residential schools. Even among Indigenous respondents in these provinces, more than half still want verification before accepting the burial claims. And in Saskatchewan, where Indigenous people make up over 17% of the population, the highest proportion of any province, a majority also say it's time to stop apologizing and move forward from the residential school legacy. Most Canadians oppose firing people for questioning the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's conclusions. About half say it's unfair to dismiss professors, teachers, lawyers, or journalists for raising questions. For politicians, the country is split. 2/3 of Conservatives say it's unfair to force resignation, while Liberal and NDP supporters are more divided. And there's overwhelming opposition to criminalizing denialism, despite calls from Independent Special Interlocutor Kimberly Murray and NDP MP Leah Gazin to make residential school denialism a criminal offense. Canadians reject the idea. 63% oppose criminalization and only 24% are in favor. Among Indigenous respondents, more are opposed to criminalizing so-called denialism than not. The split is 45% opposed to 42% in favor. Nationally, 54% believe the harms of residential schools are ongoing, while 46% say it's time to move on. Saskatchewan is the only province where a clear majority takes the harder line, saying it's time to stop apologizing, despite having Canada's highest proportion of Indigenous residents. 68% agree with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's label of residential schools as cultural genocide. 52% agree with the broader 2019 Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Report's claim that Canada's overall policies towards Indigenous people constitute a genocide. Even in provinces with the largest Indigenous populations, most residents want physical evidence before accepting the Kamloops burial claims. And in Saskatchewan of all places, the prevailing view is that the apologies have gone on long enough. Canadians may agree on the harms of residential schools, but they reject criminalizing debate. They want proof, not just politics. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. To see my friend Drea Humphrey's documentary on the Kamloops Indian Residential School called Kamloops, The Buried Truth, please go to kamloopsdocumentary.com.